Let's cultivate our motivation. So, of course, we aim to have compassion and love for all beings. But then there are those beings who harm us or who harm the people that we care about or who aid our enemies. And we don't like those people at all. And we may find that sometimes our mind thinking, be nice if they got a taste of their own medicine. If they had to experience all the troubles and problems that they're making other people experience through their bad behavior. So it's very easy to have that wish for them to experience harm. And if that goes on long enough, we may actually develop the intention to harm them ourselves and then rejoice after we do. So that kind of mind, it happens a lot in samsara, especially if we're competing with people or people have harmed us or whatever. And yet that kind of attitude towards other sentient beings, no matter how they've acted towards us, doesn't get us anywhere on the path to full awakening, but it does create a lot of negative karma that will lead us to an unfortunate rebirth. So it's important to catch that mind when it arises and not let it ruminate in our mind, but to apply one of the many antidotes to anger, free our mind from that thought, and then cultivate compassion for that person. Because remember, to attain Buddhahood, we must cultivate bodhicitta, develop, actualize bodhicitta. And that depends on having great love and great compassion for each and every sentient being, omitting not even one. So thinking about that can really spur us to change our attitude towards that person or those people. And when we do, of course, we feel happier here and now. We have better relationships here and now. We avoid creating destructive karma. And we progress on our path developing bodhicitta and attaining full awakening. So let's keep that in mind, especially in these times when there's so much discord in society. And may we remain firm in seeing the value of compassion and cultivating it. And making that compassion and bodhicitta our motivation for sharing the Dharma this evening. So I want to build on that meditation a little bit. As we know, the president announced late last night that he had COVID-19, and today he's been hospitalized. And one of our supporters wrote to me today, and he said, please, in capital letters, do a BBC about schadenfreude. Schadenfreude. Got to practice my German. It's a good German word to know. Schadenfreude, which means, rejoicing and feeling delight at somebody else's misery and misfortune. Okay? So when this friend, Abbey friend, wrote and asked me to do that, I realized that my next day to do a BBC wasn't for 10 days. And by then, who knows what the news cycle will be. We will probably have 10 more crises between now and then and have forgotten all about what's happened today. So I thought I'd better talk about this tonight while it's fresh and while some people may be feeling that. Okay? Because it's not exactly like the president is popular with all of the country. Sure, with his base, he's very popular, but he's not popular with a good chunk of the country. And so, especially seeing that he has not had the ability to take leadership to guide the country and protect the country in the face of the pandemic, such that over 207,000 Americans have died so far. And so a lot of people are upset by this. And then when the news comes that he himself got COVID, then it's very easy to say, now he gets to see what it's like. Except, of course, he'll have better treatment. He's at Walter Reed Hospital. He'll have the best doctors. He already got the infusion of antibodies. He isn't some ordinary American who would probably still be at home with a fever, or even if they had gone to the doctor, been told to go home and, just come back when you can't breathe at all and your lungs are collapsing, and then, we may put you on a ventilator if we have a spare one, but otherwise, good luck. So it's very easy to say, like, oh, we hope he suffers after what he's done, and, how arrogant he is, and on and on and on. You know what I mean? And this thought may have come into some of our minds as well. So to watch, that schadenfreude, and think, because when I wish somebody else harm or rejoice in the harm that they have, what kind of person does that make me? Because I'm wanting them to have harm because they don't care about other people and they're insensitive and they use people and they ignore this and they do this and they do this and they do that. But as soon as my mind is imbued with hatred and rejoices at other people's suffering, then what kind of human being am I? Yeah. I'm not any better than the person that I'm wishing harm on because their behavior is so awful. Mm-hmm. And so having that mind that rejoices at other people's problems or misfortune or whatever, it when we sit and go nee, 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 it may feel good for an instant because we think, oh, now I'm getting my revenge. But how do we really feel about ourselves deep inside when we feel delight when somebody gets COVID or somebody is shot or somebody, has some misfortune? Mm-hmm. And especially being a Dharma practitioner, having that attitude just doesn't get us anywhere in terms of what we want to uh, accomplish in this precious human life. Because with the precious human life, we want to, bring ourselves further along the path. And this, and schadenfreude takes us backwards. Yeah. So it's something to be quite careful about, in terms of antidotes, because this mind is very much based on anger, hatred, could be jealousy and envy. We want somebody to be harmed because we're jealous of them. It could be because we're competing with somebody and they are better than us and we can't stand that. So our pride is piqued and we want revenge. Yeah. So to really notice what kind of mind is behind that, Schadenfreude, what kind of mind is behind that? Apply the appropriate antidote. And then instead of building up this straw figure that's the embodiment of evil, see that this is simply a sentient being who wants happiness and doesn't want suffering, just like me. And also, this sentient being is a being in samsara, which means that they're suffering age, sickness, birth, aging, sickness, and death. So why should I wish them harm when harm is going to come to them naturally simply because they're a being in samsara? Yeah. Why should I rejoice even if they die, if they're going to die anyway because they're being in samsara? So Shantideva asks this in Engaging in the Bodhisattva's Deeds. I forget what chapter, but he says it's really like, it's ridiculous because somebody's going to die anyway. They're going to suffer anyway in samsara. So why should we take a delight in it and wish that upon them? It doesn't make any sense. And to spend our time and energy causing them harm when harm is going to come to them anyway because they're a samsaric being. Okay? So to really, have that introspective awareness in our mind and see the Schadenfreude and the whatever affliction lay behind it, and then counteract those and substitute it with compassion and bodhicitta. Make sense?
So I have to confess that I felt a moment of happiness when I heard the news. And of course, I know it's not a good thought to have, but when I look at it and analyze it, why did I feel that way? I see that it's because I thought, oh, now he won't be able to steal the election. So I don't think it's so much that I want him to suffer and I want him to die. I just want him to be stopped from doing something that could be incredibly destructive to our country. And it really does look like that might happen. So then, I mean, what would you say about that?
Well, it seems like wanting to stop somebody who is doing something that's harmful to the country would be good, but why stop them by causing them harm and misery and rejoicing at it? You know, there's got to be other ways to stop beings out of compassion because they're so confused instead of out of ill will and malice because, you know, we can't stand what they're doing.
Is rejoicing then a neutral mental state that depends on its object to become virtuous?
Yeah, you can rejoice at goodness, we can rejoice at negativity. Yeah, so depends what the object is, and of course the intensity of the rejoicing. And it depends also on what mental state is feeding that kind of rejoicing. Yeah, well, rejoicing itself, I don't think you ever rejoice for a neutral thing. It can, in other words, it can go either way. Like investigation and analysis, it can be something non-virtuous, it can be something virtuous, depending on the object and how it's done and so forth.
So if we're thinking about someone we see causing harm, and instead of saying, oh, I good, something has happened to them, just the thought of karma means that something negative is going to happen to them in the future, or they're in samsara, so they're going to suffer. Isn't that also a little bit of schadenfreude?
It depends on how you say it to yourself. If you say, oh yeah, karma, they're gonna suffer next lifetime due to all the negative karma they're creating. Just you wait, buddy, and we'll see what happens to you. That's clearly, nasty, isn't it? Okay. Whereas just a mind that is thinking about things in terms of karma and saying, wow, here's a person who's creating a lot of negative karma and they'll suffer a lot in the future. And I've got to look at their actions and see to what extent do I do the same actions and to what extent do I have the same rotten motivations behind my actions. Yeah. So we, instead of rejoicing that, they'll experience the negative karma in their future life in the form of great suffering, to really see what they're doing and learn from their mistakes so that we don't do the same thing. Yeah. If we do that, then we're not creating that kind of negativity. It's not schadenfreude, or however you say it. Yeah, schadenfreude. Okay, I'm going to dream schadenfreude. um, yeah, so it's going to depend on those kinds of factors.
I read even in a headline of a German major main newspaper that now his karma is ripening, so to say. But it's very short-sighted, as you kind of pointed in that direction, because we are so interconnected, and whatever happens to another person will affect others as well. So we rather wish this person well because we will benefit from it in the long term.
Yeah.
Actually, when I have difficulty with somebody's actions that I see causing a lot of harm, specifically the same person we're talking about here, I try to think about the future suffering that they're going to experience as a way to develop compassion for them, actually.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
it can be used as a positive thing, too, to see that.
Yeah. Okay. So that fits in to our topic of karma. We're in the middle of the karma chapter. Because what we rejoice in is creating karma. You know, whatever we rejoice. If we rejoice in negative actions, we create non-virtue. If we rejoice at virtuous actions, we create virtue. Okay?